What's up, guys and gals? Welcome back to the Nerdcastle for the next episode of Battlefleet Gothic Armada. This time, we're going to be playing solo skirmish mode for a little bit. I don't know how long we're going to be playing. I played solo skirmish for 3 or 4 hours the other night, and it was pretty fun. It's basically just like endless battles over and over and over again against chaos while you level up and get to play around with the ships. I don't think it's going to be incredibly entertaining on the long term. It's the kind of thing that's sort of fun once you've already done the campaign every now and again when you just want to get your feet wet. But I figured we'd do a couple episodes of it because people seem like they like the campaign mode, and I know they were bummed just like I was bummed that it ran out. I know they're supposed to be updating it any day now. The campaign mode should be dropping pretty soon with the rest of the missions. It should be in the next week or two. That's at least, I think that's what the developer said. I gotta go back and read the email again. Either way, solo skirmish mode. This time around, we're going to play as the Imperial Navy. The Imperial Navy is pretty legit, and I'm not a big fan of Chaos. They're probably my least favorite army in Warhammer 40k. I just don't like them very much. And so, there's my other Admiral right there that I was playing around with long term. With my new Admiral, let's see, I don't know. Our new Admiral will be called, oh, I don't know, Tender Twiggies. There we go. Sounds good to me. We'll put it on normal mode. We're going to play Tender Twiggies today. There's not really a whole lot we got to do. I mean, we got to sit here and we got to set up some of our other stuff real fast. And that's pretty much about it. Like, that's all that we got going on. Cool. So we start out. We got to decide. We got all of our escort ships right here. And then we got to decide on some light cruisers to bring along. As of right now, I don't think there's a giant difference between the Dauntless and the Dauntless Mark II. The Dauntless Mark II focuses on torpedoes, and then the Dauntless Mark I has a prow lance, and so it just comes down to like what you want to use. I like the Dauntless I better. The Dauntless II, you don't really get a chance to use the torpedoes very often, and so I'll probably take 2 of these and add them to my fleet, and then we'll take a Mark II just in case. Other than that, for all intents and purposes, the loadouts are basically the same, aside from the fact that this one comes with torpedoes. Obviously, the prow lance, I think it's like a big laser cannon thing on the front. I haven't fiddled around with it a whole lot. Yeah, it's that big laser cannon on the front. It looks like it's only got, oh, it's got a 90 degree in the front, though. That's not terrible. That means that while turning, if we put it on automatic, they should be able to, you can turn things on automatic. I didn't know that when I was playing the campaign. You can right-click abilities, and the ships will just use them whenever applicable, and it's actually pretty sweet. My suggestion would be, with our skills, we've only got 100 renown to play around with. My suggestion would be to take, let's see, this one right here, Void Shield Transfer. Oh my god, it's the shit. And so the first ability that I put on both of these is going to be Void Shield Transfer, so that we can just transfer shields to one another. Now, technically, you aren't moving your shield over. It seems like it just sort of recharges. I don't know. It's pretty sweet. I think it's a placeholder right now. It might not actually be working properly, but I was using it last night in my fleet, and you seem to be able to use it at no cost to yourself, which was pretty rad, and so we'll see what happens here. Our first battle's probably only going to be like 200 points, so I doubt we'll get to use everything that we have in front of us, but we'll give it a go. Alright, so this is going to be a 250 point fight. That means if I bring both Dauntli, that leaves me with either the Cobra Destroyer or a Firestorm Frigate or a Sword Frigate to come with me. What's the difference? This one right here has a double macro turret. This one has a light double macro turret and a prow lance. Let's take the prow lance. I think that'll be pretty sweet. And so the mission is Cruiser Clash. Now, as we get further, this does have a little bit of variability to it that I hadn't talked about yet. As you get further in, it will unlock new mission types that will pop up every now and again, and so we'll level up to level 3, I think, or level 2 is the first time. You can get escort missions, and you get a couple one, and it just assigns them randomly, and you just got to decide what you want to do. I like the escort missions because they go fast, and you can bang them out real quick. This fight is probably going to be a little bit hectic. You never quite know what they're going to be bringing along. Do you get more? Oh, you get bonus renown if you don't bring the rest of it in. You know, I really would not recommend that. I think I'm going to stick with it, so we'll get our macro turrets, and we'll ready up. Our glorious ship glides through the ether, braving the warp and all form of enemy that faces mankind. For the Emperor, our weird wang ships fly. Alright, so I do like the battlefields that I've seen so far have all been, actually, it's almost distracting. They're so beautiful. Like, some of the battlefields really have a lot of stuff going on, where you're like, I want to look at that thing, I want to look at that thing, I want to look at that thing, and you don't know, like, how to pay attention to it all. It gets a little bit hectic, so let's play some ships here. Oop, that was definitely not what I wanted. Let's place, I guess, a Dauntless. I tend to like to play along the side of the map just in case. We'll place a Dauntless there. We'll place like a Dauntless there. And what I like to do is I like to keep my escort craft back and behind, otherwise the AI focus fires them pretty quickly. It can be a tad of a pain. It looks like we've got a limited amount of time to deploy, or maybe even to play. I don't know. At your command, my lord. And so having stacked up on this side, it does look like we're going to have several enemies riding up on us. I'm going to tell them to go full on ahead, full burn, light that thing up. You can't take the sky from me and all that kind of fun stuff. Although I wouldn't put it past Chaos. Honestly, they can do a lot of terrible things to you. I'm going to hide inside this warp field right here. We got 4 enemy ships to kill. Chances are that they've run 3 escorts and 1 main ship. That's my guess. They don't tend, the AI tends to run a lot lighter ships than I do. I tend to use my entire, like, fleet allocation for, like, giant cruisers because they just last longer. These guys down here, don't get me wrong, they can hurt stuff. They're pretty good. But what we need to do right now is I want Lightning Strike on automatic. Lightning Strike and Boarding Action are basically the same thing. You can right-click on stuff to make it happen automatically. Boarding Action, I think, does a little bit more damage. But this one right here can be done from, like, a longer range. And so I would go for it. If you give it better troop value, too. So if as you level up your stuff, hopefully none of these is like a missile cruiser or anything coming in. That would be really, really upsetting. So what'll happen sometimes is they'll have like these carrier frigate things that launch out little baby ships that come out and fight with you, and they can go from a hella long range, and so it'll just camp way off in the corner over here and just bombard you while you're fighting with everything else. Oh, it can be such a huge pain in the ass. We'll wait till they enter our scan range. We don't really have a whole lot of tools right now to play around with. I do have a healing thing that I can use now that I didn't know about when I was playing the campaign. I think they mentioned it at some point, but I might have just missed it. I don't know who we're going to be up against first, but we are going to open fire whenever ready. Now, what I would also like to have... We'll go broadsides for a little bit, and I'll frontal engage with him so that the Prow Lance is constantly... Actually, you do it too. And then the second they come into scan range, we're going to be on him. Okay, enemy ship sighted. Let's get on him. It looks like they've got 2 of their escort frigates out right now. We're going to go ahead and open up on them. We want to pay attention to these bars very, very carefully. This should be a fight that we win pretty quickly. They've decided we're fighting them with our Prow Lances right now, and that is doing a ton of damage. Ship number 1 is already down, so frontal engage appears to be a very, very smart idea here. I think we're going to go through these guys without too many problems, especially since we're keeping everybody up and running, regardless of the fact. I'm going to keep him cruising around in circles. It does look like the Prow Lance does do a lot of damage, and I think that's because, in one way or another, I think the Prow Lance ignores armor or something like that, and then I'll keep him bombarding with the macros. I need you to bail on out, get out of there, and then I'm going to put you on side engage real fast. Yes, Admiral. And they have released some kind of stasis field on us. That's okay. I'm going to transfer shields to this guy before we join the fight. And we're going to plot in this direction. We've identified yet another enemy. That's going to be their cruiser. Let's engage from the front with all units. It does look like our escort craft is going to take a bit of a beating here, but that's all right. If we can keep the Prow Lances rocking, we should be able to take this thing without too many problems. Lightning Strike has failed right there. The second the shields go down, you always want to have Lightning Strike up and ready to go. Sometimes it doesn't go like that, but it is what it is. Losing an escort frigate, not that big of a deal because these don't level up, so don't worry about losing them. The only thing you should really care about losing is going to be your main cruisers. Your cruisers level up, they get abilities, and if they die, it's deeply upsetting. However, we got a Lightning Strike failure right there. Is he still engaging from the front? Let's go ahead and engage a little bit closer on all of these. I would like for you guys to drift. There it is. We got that Lightning Strike, which should start burning off a little bit of that hull before we do anything else. The second his shields are back up, what we want to do here, throw some shields on you. How long do I have until yours is back up? Yours is already back up. All right, well, then share the load. We are still taking a hefty amount of damage, though. We should be able to bounce back after this fight without too many problems. Those Prow Lances, man. Those Prow Lances are pretty good. I've never actually taken the ships with the Prow Lances before. I stuck with the torpedoes. Wasn't super impressed with the torpedoes, though. I found them to be a little bit lackluster. We're going to go in. We're going to go ahead and begin repairs. I'm going to give a fleet-wide deck order to focus on accuracy so that we're hitting a little bit better. That's not going to matter too much with the Prow Lances because they always hit, which is one of the major benefits of the Prow Lance, is that it just hammers the enemy. None of them got to warp. That means that we're going to get a fat chunk of XP for this. You would really prefer that they not make it to warp. I think you have to have a shield up first before you can do that. Although for these little guys, I think you can recharge it from nothing. And there's the kill. The fragments of the heretics who would ride against the Imperium of Man. We said, nay, sir, nay. Call the Commissar. 'Tis time to ride or die in the warp. How'd we do? Let's see what we came out with here. Did pretty well. 113 renown is a pretty solid pull for one mission. That's going to allow us to level up the Dauntless and... Alright, never mind. We got the Triumph of Balaam and we got the Crown of Mastado. I've never gotten the Hammer of Pooh again. I've never gotten the Hammer of Pooh, which really makes sense. Just straight up the ass end. Although that would be for the ship that's got like the ram on it so that you can ram the enemy. Be the Hammer of Pooh, your Pooh. So we can level up crew on both of these. Two options here. You can go with ratings. If you go with ratings, this makes your crew a lot better, which means that when they jump, well, it makes your boarding crew a lot better. It makes them more effective. It also increases, yeah, the troop value by 3 per level, and so we would get 6. Right? Is it for our level or is it for the crew's level? It's probably just for the crew's level. I'm going to stick with, well, let's go through what everything does. So Master Gunner makes it so that you have a higher critical chance with your lances. That might actually be a smart idea too, considering we're running that strategy. The Tech Priest makes it so I think you repair faster. The Navigator makes it so that you don't get stuck in the warp when you lose. Or at least it reduces it by 1 turn if you do end up. So when you lose the game and your ships get, like, if you have to concede a fight and you've already had people warp out, sometimes they get stuck in the warp for a little while. It takes them a bit to jump on out. The Avenger of Schindelgeist. That's a pretty badass name. The Commissar, I think, reduces your chances of insubordination or something like that, yeah. It makes it so you don't get insubordination on your ship. However, it's important to note that whatever your flagship is, your flagship cannot have insubordination. Like, it physically cannot happen. And then Servitors just make it so that flat your skills do better. And each level, I think, gives you, like, 5 to 6 seconds off. Because I think it's around 3 minutes, actually. I think it's around 3 minutes for each one. And so that gives you like 180 seconds. So yeah, you're probably going to get like 7-8 seconds off right there. 7 seconds more than likely each level. So you can take 28 seconds off so that you've basically taken a half a minute off. My suggestion would just be to go with the Gunners. The Gunners are being able to outshoot the enemy. That's kind of what the Imperials want to do. The Imperials want to stay at range and they want to outshoot the enemy. Whereas if you're the Orcs, you want to run up and then you want to bombard them with close range shit. If you're going to play Chaos, you got to be a little bit more nuanced about the way you play the game because Chaos, they ride a little bit, I don't know, Chaos I think functions a little bit more heavily with escort ships and kind of playing around with a mixed, I haven't played them yet, so I can't really give you any idea. I can only tell you what I've seen based on what I fought. Normally it seems like a pretty good idea with Chaos to kind of have a little bit of everything and not focus on tanking so much because they seem to not have much armor. So, we can get a new skill here, and there's lots of stuff. There's everything from different engines that make you turn better to go faster. I would suggest that if you're going to take the go faster stuff, you should only put it on all of your ships or none of your ships. Otherwise, you end up with ships all over the place that they move at different speeds and they engage at different times, and it can lead to slight frustrations. If you want to go fast, go fast. You can get a better warp engine in case you have to warp out when you're losing. I don't plan on losing. You can increase your shield. That would play pretty well along with our strategy that we have going on right now. We can also take less asteroid damage, which means that we could actually engage in the middle of an asteroid field and not have to worry about getting damaged. The enemy would just have to play around that, and they would just have to deal with it. The reloading speed of the shield improved by 50% is pretty major. That's what happens when your shield gets knocked off. It does that little purple bar. That makes that. See, this is why I wanted to play over the weekend, and I took a day off from the game, and I'm sorry I didn't put a video up yesterday, but like I took the entire weekend off, and I just played the game quite a bit. I put in like 4 or 5 hours just messing around with skirmish mode and doing campaign again, and it's getting a feel for everything before we started our skirmish mode up because I wanted to have a reasonably decent idea of what I wanted to do before I came in. I didn't want to struggle much when I came in. I didn't want to bang my head against figuring out what stuff does. You can get a bunch of different scanning stuff here. That can be pretty useful if you're a long-range craft like a cruiser or a carrier that can bombard from like 12k. None of these ships are that though, and so, meh, I mean, it's not so bad. I think that we could probably, you can use special orders when its deck is destroyed. That's not terrible. Special orders are the thing that I focused on in the last fight near the end. I said I wanted to give a deck order or a crew order. with a specificity designated towards our accuracy. The point there that I was going for, that's called a deck order, and so what that does is it makes it so that if your deck gets destroyed, you can't give those orders anymore. This makes it so that your deck can be destroyed, but you can still give those orders. We can increase our armor a bit for a line ship. That's always a smart idea, especially since Chaos focuses on all attack and very, very little defense. If you can outlast them and you have enough time to punch through them, you'll probably be okay. Extra turrets, this is a little deceitful. This doesn't give you extra macros. Instead, what this does is it gives you extra boarding turrets. And so when the enemy fires pods at you, or if they try to attack you with fighters or anything like that, these turrets will deal with that problem. So it just gives you a little bit of resistance. Consider this like a 15-20% plus resistance to things attacking you with like fighter pilots and bombers and stuff like that and boarding actions. Not the lightning strike though, only the boarding pods, I think. We can do camo, which means you can run silent a little better. Fires last less time. That's pretty useful if you get set on fire a lot. Typically, what I like to do is you can either go with the macro upgrade, so you can get turbo weaponry, which makes it so they can shoot further. You take teleportarium, which means that you can run lightning strike twice, and so you can go bam bam and hit them with it twice, and so you could stack up like 5 fires on top of them, which is pretty good. Not a bad idea if you're all into attack like I am. Armor piercing is pretty good. It means that you can ignore enemy armor once you get them down to like a certain amount. And so I think, for example, this ship right here, well, I don't know what that reads right there. I honestly don't know what F75S, I think it's front, side, and back. But 50, it said that it increases it by once there's only 3,500 units left. I don't have anything specific right here that denotes. Basically, it just lets you attack. It lets you attack their hull once their armor gets low enough. That's all you really need to know about it. Refined lenses makes your lances shoot a lot further, which would be really, really cool. Unfortunately, the problem with that. How far does the lance fire? So the lance has a 6,000 range. That would let you hit at 9,000. The problem being, though, is that you'd be firing at things that you don't have the detection range to hit. So, for example, I don't have the detection range to fire right now, and so if we wanted to make these lances work to their full capacity, the smartest plan would actually be to take a passive right now and make our detection range a little bit further so that we can properly utilize the things that we have on board. Now, this might be a terrible indiscretion. I might be making a wrong choice right now. I don't know. But it seems like the kind of thing that I would go after. Over on this side, I'm going to go with Void Shield Transfer. It's really, really good. Another one that I would recommend is Plasma Bomb is pretty good. The shield, Supercharged Shield, I mean, all of these kind of pale in comparison to Void Transfer, which is really, really good. Emergency Capacitor is all right. The Teller, there's a micro warp jump you can do, which is pretty sweet. Basically, there's a lot of cool stuff in here, and so you should pan and scan around and take a look at it. Taunt can be limited. It can be useful if you can deploy it at the right time, but chances are you may not be able to. It's a little weird. You can also get favors at the outset of the fight, which means that they're kind of like these little one-run abilities you can use in here. So let's say we go with the Imperial Navy, we get favor bonuses. And so we get these on, we get immune to insubordination, which is pretty cool. And then if we were to pay them off with our cost, we would get reinforcement, which a Cobra class escort ship enters the battlefield as reinforcement. The player has to deploy this within 5,000 units. So that's pretty good right there. The Adeptus Astartes, we can use the Space Marines if we wanted to see if we can get a Terminator Lightning Strike, which would be like, damn. Like if you get boarded by Terminators, that's troublesome. Space Marines, we get plus 10 to its troop value. And since we're playing... Is there anything here that gives me better lance skills? Upgrades and repairs reduced. Gains an extra skill slot. That's pretty good though too. Mechanicus Enclaves is pretty nice. We may want to play this one instead. If you were doing like a boarding action build, so let's say you went into here and you took a skill like double lightning strike or whatever, like this one over here, that would be one of the times where you would definitely want to play into Adeptus Astartes, because then you'd be able to double deploy your lightning strikes, and on top of that they would be either Terminator or Space Marine strikes. And it'd be a lot to deal with for the enemy. It would be a ton to deal with. For right now, we don't really have time for our next battle. So instead, these are probably just going to be short little skirmishes. We might get 2 in the next episode, which would be really, really cool. My name is Splattercat. Thank you for joining me here at the Nerdcast for the next episode of Battlefleet Gothic Armada. I will see you all in the next episode. It's been a blast. I really do like this game, and I can't wait to see where it goes in the future. See y'all next time, everybody. Hi-do.